Okay, today we're going to be talking about imagination. We're talking from the book Fundamentals of Unicult, which you can also get on Unicult Supply Co. on Etsy. This book is amazing. There's only so many copies going to be printed of this version, and it's a collector's edition. And after this version, there's going to be a third version that's going to go on forever. So there will be no more changes after the third version. The second edition is a high value object. It will be in the future. The first edition is even more rare. There's only 111 copies printed. You can still get the first edition as well if you're interested in the collector's edition. Okay, if you're following along in your book, we're going to be talking from the book, page 64. On page 64, we're talking about imagination. And the last sermon that we did, we talked about thinking deeply. And there's a lot of questions that we brought up last time about thinking deeply and about how it's really the opposite of what most spiritual practices teach. They teach about being in the present moment, being in the now. And I'm actually going to play a TikTok. And TikTok, if you're not going to be able to see it because I can only show it on YouTube, but you might have seen it. She's talking about imagination. So I'm going to just play that really quick for everybody. Let me pull it up. And I really love this TikTok, and I think it's going to just help us get to everything we're talking about.
By Yuval Noah Harari. And
okay, let me make sure that
So I'm an atheist.
Okay, so she starts out by saying, so I'm an atheist. Okay, here we go.
But a while back I read this book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, and in it he talks about how collective imagination through religion, capitalism, democracy, etc. has allowed societies to function on a large scale in ways that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. And it makes sense because even though it seems like our culture is becoming less and less religious and more people are becoming atheists, atheism hasn't been able to fill that gap because atheism by definition is a lack of belief, and a lack of belief cannot create a collective imagination or unite people the same way religion can. The result of this is that it seems like more people are clinging to social and political ideologies that act as a religion, or they're turning to New Age spirituality, and whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing is up for debate, but to me at least, it seems like this is one of the reasons why we're having such a huge culture war at the moment. So I'm an atheist, but a while back I read this book called Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, and in it he talks about how collective imagination through religion, capitalism...
All right. So I love that TikTok. I saw it the other day, and I think it's just brilliant. It's a brilliant little description of what we're going to be talking about and the importance of imagination. Let's go ahead and start with the book, with Fundamentals. I'll read a little bit to you from the chapter, and then we'll go into the specifics about why that TikTok is relevant, and also what we can look forward to as far as being Unicultists and bringing forth Unitopia through the power of our imagination. In Unicult, we say that imagination is salvation. Weren't we just asking, wasn't Resist just asking if there's a sermon on imagination? And I said there will be, and it turns out it's the next one in the book. It's so funny. Imagination is the key to finding the creative solutions to any and all problems. It is the essential component of solutions-based thinking. So in Unicult, we say that we're a solutions-based organization. That means that we look at the world, we look at the problems, and we come up with solutions. There are very few solutions-based organizations. Most organizations are profit-driven organizations. Our bottom line isn't profit, it's solutions. Sometimes profit is included in the solution. Like for Uniacres, we need to save $25,000 or more to get Uniacres. And part of that is to get Uniacres, part of the solution of that is to just work within the structure of money. But most endeavors, most businesses, everything, they say that money is the only goal. And that's not really a solution to a lot of problems, as we know with late stage capitalism. Imagination is a form of thinking deeply. So last week our sermon was on thinking deeply, or the last time we did Cam Church was on thinking deeply. Imagination taps us into many different realms and allows unlimited energies of the universe to come into our consciousness. Imagination and positive thinking are best friends. Okay, we will talk about that in a second, but let's just start with what is imagination? We think imagination is just for kids. We think imagination is just a game that people play. When in reality, imagination is our ability to conceive of anything that isn't present. When we go into meditation and we think, what if I said this? What if I said that? And you ruminate on your past behaviors and you ruminate on what you should have done and what you could do, that is a form of imagination. You are using your uni-given powers of consciousness to create a reality that doesn't currently exist. Even using your memory is a form of imagination, because you might be remembering something, but you're going to choose to remember it in a way that is based on your own consciousness, your own imaginative beliefs. When we realize that imagination is a uni-given right to our consciousness, when we realize the power that imagination has to not only transform our reality from the present reality that we're currently in, but also to bring in light into our bodies and into our worlds and into our realities, to bring in an alternative viewpoint than the one that we currently have, we realize the power that imagination has to change our current emotional state and our physical reality. When I talk about thinking deeply and I talk about how everything in our world that is human-made started with a thought, that is true. All of these books were written through thinking, through imagining. Even if they're nonfiction, they had to imagine how they're going to explain it. All of the bookshelves, all of the roads, all of the cars, everything that we have, all of the synths, all of the instruments came from imagination and experimentation. When we use our imagination to create something that isn't in our current reality, physically present in this moment, we are using it to time travel into the future or into the past. We are using it to manufacture and create alternative systems that don't currently exist, alternative devices. Maybe he was struck with inspiration and he saw the entire power plant that he later built in a single moment. There are many different ways that imagination can work, that imagination can become infused into our consciousness and into our hands and into our bodies. When we look at all of the solutions that Unicult talks about, we always talk about them from two perspectives. The first is from the microcosm of your own reality, the smaller, singular focus of your own life. How does imagination help you in your reality? How does imagination help you feel better about your life? How does imagination help you escape the mundane reality? How does imagination help you create the future that you want to live in? And then we look at it from a macrocosm scale, because we're all one. So how does imagination help us collectively? And that's what the TikTok that I showed you was about. When a society uses their imagination to explore concepts which are not physically present in this reality, such as religion, such as, even going to war, like having a belief, a conscious belief that you should do something as a collective, to have the conscious dedication to the imaginary concept of patriotism, for instance. This is a large-scale motivating device. The effect of inspiration and imagination in the collective is a large-scale motivating device. It's been used as a brainwash, and mass media has captured our imagination. How many times have you heard that? Captured your imagination. Our imaginations have been captured, and our imaginations have been focused and restricted into certain streams of conscious thought to serve a certain demographic of people, aka the 1%, our overlords, our economic overlords. What can we do as individuals to take back our imagination, to take back the power that we have as individuals to imagine realities which bring in more light, which motivate us to create a better world in our own lives. That's what you get to ask yourself. I asked myself, how can I use my imagination to inspire a large-scale movement of motivation so that we can steer the ship of society into the right direction so that we can create Unitopia on Earth? That is why Unicult exists. When we all collectively believe in a single entity or idea or motivation or future, we work toward that future. If you wake up in the morning and you say, oh, I'm just so ugly, everybody hates me, I'm just a creature crawling around on the earth, I don't deserve to be alive, everyone despises me, everyone wishes I was dead. I've lived that way. I know that many of us have. You're using your imagination to hurt yourself. You're using your imagination to create a reality which doesn't currently actually exist. And sometimes when you use your imagination, you actually create that reality. If you're just like, oh, I'm just so awful, and like someone comes and talks to you and you're like, oh, get away from me, I'm just a wretched creature, people are going to be like, whoa, and they might get away from you. You're reinforcing that reality with your imagination. If you use your imagination to say, what a beautiful day it is. I believe that I'm a pop star cult leader. I believe I can do whatever I want. I believe if I want to be a musician, I can be a musician. If I believe I want to be a painter, I can be a painter. I believe if I want to do this, I can do that. If I want to start a global religion, I can do that. If you can use your imagination to be free and to believe that you can do these things, then what happens? You play your instruments, you pick up a paintbrush, you go online and you start preaching. Whatever it is that you believe you can do, whatever in future you use your consciousness to envision, you will create. This is the power that we have in our lives. We don't always get to control external circumstances, but we get to control the power of our consciousness, which is actually the most potent force in the universe. So when we're talking about imagination, yes, it's very important that you understand the way that your imagination has been captured. It's very important that you understand that every single movie that you've watched has restricted your consciousness into believing that the world is a certain way, and that changes reality. It's important for you to understand that every time that you are ruminating on the past or worrying about the future, that you're using your imagination to do that. And that you can choose to use your imagination in a different way. But I really want to talk today about the power of collective imagination. When we all sit here and we imagine Uniacres and we say Unicult is going to have several communes all across the world that I can just go to at any time and take classes and stay for a weekend or stay for a couple months or stay for several years, whatever it is you want to do. If we all collectively believe that Uniacres is inevitable, then it becomes easy. People donate $5, $10, $20, $1,000. It just becomes, because we all believe in it. If we all believe, this is something that's very interesting, and this is the reason, if you look around you and you're like, why is the world so chaotic? Why are we living in a dystopian nightmare? Anyone who studies literature could have told you that that was going to be our future. The popular themes of literature in the last 10 years have been all dystopian reality. Were they predicting the future, or do we take our cues from art? When we look at art, we create our conception of reality. Look at sci-fi, for instance. The root of tons of innovations has been in sci-fi. My desire to start Eve's Robot Dreams came because I was reading a sci-fi book. The effect that our literature and our media has on our ability to predict our own futures, to live out those things which we think are inevitable. We subconsciously internalize what we consume that creates and shapes our future. So the reason why we're living in a dystopian nightmare right now is because the only books that were popular in the last 10 years were dystopian nightmare books, dystopian nightmare movies. It is time for us to shift our consciousness, to shift our imagination into Unitopian consciousness. The reason why Unicult exists as a collective is to create a thought form of the future that is positive, that is possible for all of us to collectively believe in and collectively work toward so that we can bring it about. Your power and my power are the same. Each person as an individual has exactly the same amount of power as each other. There is no president, there's no CEO, there's no musician or celebrity who is better than you or more powerful than you. You have the exact same power as every other human. Where does that power really matter? One, if you can trick people into thinking that you're more powerful than them. That's what a lot of celebrities and politicians do. They put on their special clothes, they get their special cameras, they get their special lighting, they get their special makeup people, they get all their background people holding them up, making them look amazing. And they rap about being so rich and it's easy. They went from the hood to the top, no problem. They didn't even have to try. They're just better than you. You can trick people into thinking that you're more powerful than they are. That's possible to do. And another way that you can really create a stronger amount of power is by collaboration, by working together. Because each of us as individuals has a singular amount of power. But when we work together, that power is squared. 2 people has the energy of 4 people working independently. 3 people working together has the energy of 9 people working independently. When we work together and with our imaginations, we create thought forms that other people can exist within. I created Unicult. I've worked really hard to create Unicult as a thought form. I wrote this book, which took a lot of thinking and a lot of time. I've been on camera for thousands of hours explaining these concepts and explaining these ideas and living my life in a way that matches these concepts. I had to work really hard to create the thought form of Unicult. But once I did, other people understood it, and other people held the space for the consciousness of this thought form. The more people, this is why it's so important to me that people join Unicult. Do I really care if people are in my cult or not from an ego perspective? No. When people sit down and they fill out the application, they get their application and they fill it out and they send it to me. What are they doing? They're saying, I understand the imaginative concept of Unitopia. I understand who you are and I understand what you're doing. And I also want to put my one imagination, please, one human power, putting in my ticket to change the world to Unitopia. I align with your energy that you're creating. I align with the future that is here for us all. When you join Unicult, it's not just silly. You're joining your energy to a thought form of the conscious future, which we deserve. So many of us feel the truth of reality so clearly, right? It's like people who are awake, right? You're just, once you become awake, you're just like, whoa, wake up, sheeple. Look at all these non-playable characters walking around. Why do we have homeless people? What is this madness? Why aren't we just talking about our immune systems? Isn't the immune system the number one thing that prevents disease? Why is that not even part of the conversation? When you're awake, everything's just so shockingly obvious. When you're awake, you don't have to be alone. You can join your conscious energy to the obvious future of care and consideration and understanding that we all deserve. We all deserve to be loved and to have our basic needs met and to be free from whatever is enslaving us, whether it be our own conscious thought forms or systems of economic slavery or whatever. That is the future that you are agreeing to when you sign up for Unicult. That is the future that you are aligning your energy with. It's the obvious future of truth, of compassion, and of care. So because so many people believe in me, because so many people believe in the teachings of Unicult, because so many people have read this book, we are creating the thought form of Unitopia for the future. There are very, very, very few utopian examples. Who is standing here? Who is standing here saying, let's create utopia on Earth? Let's create a perfect reality. Let's make the world better. Why are there so few people talking about this? We can shift our consciousness. We can shift our imagination from cynicism into hopefulness. We can shift our imagination from dystopian to utopian, and we call it Unitopian because we are building something that is a specific version of the future so that we can all understand and conceptualize the concrete nature of it so that our imagination can be used to move forward into a positive reality. So we were just talking about the power that we have to create reality with our imagination. And there's a danger of creating a negative reality with negative imagination. And we see that with our dystopian reality, and each of us sees it in our own lives when we imagine over and over that everything is terrible. The real good way to use imagination is to use it along with positive thinking. If you let negative thinking come into your mind, your thoughts will be stifled and you will not reach the potential you have. A lot of you have been following my journey of sex and love addiction, and I have been in this spiral of energy, and it's just so frustrating to watch my mind cycle and cycle and cycle on this addiction. And I can see that I'm just using this energy to worry and worry and worry. And my imagination is trapped in an addictive pattern, which is feeding in on itself. And I feel like it's productive because it takes a lot of energy, but it's not really productive. We do this all the time. And to get out of cycles of negative thinking, that takes a long time. It takes a lot of conversation. But one thing that you can do, just one thing that you can do, is to just start to use your imagination to envision the potential for you to get out of it. Can you just envision yourself not being in cycles of negative thought? Can you imagine waking up one day and being free from negative thought? Can you imagine waking up one day and feeling confident and happy in your body and in the universe? That's the place to start. You don't have to consciously control each of your thoughts, but you have to believe in a hopeful future, and you use your imagination to do that. Spending time in imagination with negativity is something you probably do all the time. It's very boring. Using your imagination to think about people talking behind your back or reliving situations you think you could have done better. Thinking about judgment and worry. Things like judgment and worry are all negative-based thinking. When you let go of all that, you will be able to use your imagination to see the things that will bring you a lot more joy. After you find thoughts that make you joyous, spend time thinking about them. Think them over and over again, just like you did with your negative thoughts. Eventually, you will create a more powerful brain than you ever knew was possible. In Unicult, we talk about brainwashing ourselves. And this idea of brainwashing ourselves with positivity comes from the response to how we have been brainwashed with negative thinking. I was raised as a girl. I'm gender nonconforming, but I was raised as a girl. And the idea was that my body should be small, weak, and I should be quiet, and practically invisible unless I'm being sexy, unless I'm serving the male gaze. And this year I've gotten stronger, I've gotten fitter, and I've taken up space, and I had to overcome so much negative brainwashing in my head about being small and not being strong and being weak and having that be the ideal. Where did I get these toxic ideas that I should be small and weak? I got them through repetitive messaging in our society, through repetitive messaging in my family, through repetitive messaging on TV, through repetitive messaging in songs. It is a subconscious framework. Gender is a subconscious and conscious framework that we're all operating from and within. So when we're talking about brainwashing ourselves with our imagination, it's a slippery slope because there's other things to consider when you're healing, but it should not be undermined the power of brainwashing that has happened to us, the repetitive messaging that has gone into our heads, and the power that you have to reverse that repetitive messaging with your imagination, with your time and dedication and your focused energy. I am allowed to be strong. I'm allowed to take up space. I am strong and I radiate. I'm 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 strong and I exist. I'm strong and I love my physical body. I'm strong and I love what I can do with my body. I'm strong and I love being able to do push-ups. I love being able to do push-ups. I need to constantly reaffirm and brainwash myself with these ideas. The way that you can use your own imagination is wonderful. The imagination is a stage for you to put anything. You can consciously create anything in your mind that you want to create. Anything. It's a blank canvas. And if you have trouble holding thoughts, I think most of us do, especially the younger generations. If you have trouble holding a thought in your mind because you're like thinking about other things, all you need to do is practice. It is hard at first to sit and contemplate and focus, especially now, especially if you were born with a smartphone in your hand. I get it. I understand. But you can and should practice sitting and concentrating on imagination. It doesn't have to be boring. Think about it like this. You can imagine anything you want. And by imagining pleasurable scenarios and focusing your consciousness on those pleasurable scenarios, I don't just mean sex. I mean like you're going to Candy Mountain with Charlie the Unicorn. Like, how does everything look and feel? Like, you can imagine whatever you want to imagine. But using your imagination to cultivate your consciousness and to learn how to focus your energy is going to be a gift that will continue to give you blessings forever and ever. The ability to focus on things is something that has been robbed of us because of social media and because of our addiction to our technology. But you can get it back through practice. And it's something that we all should practice. Imagination is a wonderful way to practice it. If you want to have help with your imagination and you want to have help reinforcing the things that you imagine, you can create media. You can draw pictures. You can make little videos to yourself. You don't have to share them with anyone. When I was in a particularly difficult time, I made videos that were just me brainwashing myself, saying positive affirmations over and over again. I write down positive affirmations and I brainwash myself with my positive affirmations every day. Repetitive messaging is attacking you every day from your devices. You have to take your power back through repetitive messaging. We sung a song earlier called Ritual. Ritual is a repetitive action that is infused with consciousness. What I'm talking about is using your mind to reach for the things that you want to reach for. Use your minds to create and understand the reality that you want to have. Use your mind to expand the compression of reality, of your expectation of reality, and blast through it and find other people who want to believe the same things with you and blast through it and open up your mind to understanding that anything is possible. One of my affirmations right now is to expect miracles every single day. Anything is possible. The sky could change colors. I saw a rainbow around the moon last night. Anything is possible. When you live in the state of not being restricted and limited, when you can use your imagination to believe that you can do anything, you can be anything, you can accomplish anything, you can create anything, you can master anything. Take all those restrictive energies and stop using your imagination on them and start using your imagination to cultivate the reality that you want to cultivate. And you can do anything in your mind. And I want you to please use the powers that you have inside your own consciousness to create a reality that you deserve, to create a kind, compassionate reality that starts first here and that then comes out in the work that you do in Unicult, in the work that you do in your relationships, in the work that you do every day inside your own mind for your own self, to reparent yourself and to heal all of your trauma. Thank you for being here with me. We'll do a closing prayer. Oh, wait, we have to do an assignment for the Unicult practice. I would say for Unicult practice, set a timer for 5 minutes, and every day this week, spend those 5 minutes imagining what you want 2021 to be like. Okay, and set your timer so that you know, I'm focusing my energy, I'm focusing my energy, I'm focusing my energy. And it's okay if it's hard, but just keep coming back to it and spend 5 minutes focusing your energy to imagine what it's going to feel like when you wake up in the morning this time next year. Imagine what you're going to do. Imagine what you want to accomplish. Imagine coronavirus being just eradicated. Whatever you want to imagine 2021 to hold. You know, your bank account just exploding, whatever it is. Spend your time fantasizing for 5 minutes a day and focus your energy on that. Okay, that's your assignment. And notice how, keep notes of how easy it is or how hard it is at the beginning versus the end. If you spend 5 minutes a day focusing, at the end of 7 days, you're going to be really surprised at how much better you get at focusing your energy. Thank you all for being here. If it's your first time, say hello. And please say hello to everyone whose first time it is here at Cam Church. And if you're officially in Unicult, go ahead and go to the Discord server and you can have Uni Brunch with the other Unicult members. Spirit of Uni, we call you here today. Please let this information about imagination really sink into everyone's consciousness and let them see more clearly the ways that they're using the powers of their consciousness, and let them see the power of creating Unitopia through collective belief, through our collective imagination of a beautiful rainbow future. Spirit of Uni, bless each viewer in the past, present, and future, and let their lives and their bodies be filled with light so that they may create Unitopia in their own lives and have happiness and joy and understanding. Let us all see clearly and have the solutions come into our lives. Uni bless. Thank you for joining. We'll see you next week. We have no beef with the Church of Subgenius. We're all allowed to exist. Uni bless.